Oh yeah, hi folks. Yeah, just Gary McPherson again. I'd like to redo the videos I made about the sale of the century. I didn't like the way it came out. That was the last novel I was able to complete. I had some setbacks. I was attacked and so forth, and I was in the hospital. So I'm about 10 years behind schedule because I got injured in that attack. They broke into my apartment and stole my computer, and it was a mess. Sometimes truth is harder than fiction, but I won't get into the details. It's water under the bridge now. But let me explain about the last novel I wrote. Was able to complete at least. There was another novel in the works, but when they broke into my apartment, that got destroyed too. So I'd have to start over again. These stories that I've been writing, I started in about 1982 when I was still in Kansas City, Missouri, because that's where I'm from. I'm not from New York, and that's about 1,000 miles away from there. It's the Ravenflies. But it was called Sale of the Century. Hold the phone just a minute. Let me transport myself to New York City, here by the Statue of Liberty. Scotty, beam me over there, please. Oh, here we go. Okay, now I'm back in New York again. Okay, here we go. Now, let me tell you about this story called The Sale of the Century, which the last novel I was able to complete about, 10 years ago or so. The story is set in the year 2285. And there's a man called Bill Withers, Mr. Bill Withers. And he's a salesman for Cybertron Corporation in the future. The year is 2285. Now his corporation is a privately owned corporation owned by his boss, Mr. Jim Stevens. Now his name is Mr. Bill Withers, and his wife is Sherry Withers. She's a model. She's really beautiful. Beautiful, long blonde hair. And they're both rich, They have a mansion. They're laying on a beach in Malibu, California, soaking up the sun and so forth. So they're laying on the beach, and they make what they call housebots, which are sort of like synthetic, kind of human-looking artificial robots, And they have a maid and a butler themselves, I think their butler's called James Garner, and the maid is called Doris Day. They're nostalgic, They're thinking back to the 20th century, and all. So they're laying there on the beach. He's on vacation, Bill Withers, and he's a millionaire, and she's a millionaire, and so money's not their concern. So they're laying behind their mansion on Malibu, California, just soaking in the rays and watching the people on the beach, just regular, So all of a sudden, his boss calls him from Cybertron. He's a salesman for Cybertron Corporation. And they make these synthetic type of robots, and they do many chores. They work at hospitals, many things. But all of a sudden, Fatso calls him his boss. Now, his boss's name is Mr. Jim Stevens. And he calls him Skinny, Fatso and Skinny. They're just nicknames, They're used to it. So Fatso calls him up. Bill's on vacation, see, with his wife. So Fatso calls him on his wristwatch cell phone, and you can see his picture on there too. Hey, Skinny, get the hell over here in New York City, man. We got a brand new housebot model. And Bill says, Fatso, I'm on vacation, man. Can you call somebody else? He's just a salesman, for Cybertron Corporation. So, but Fatso's like a Cheshire cat, evil grin, Now you can tell he's got the devil written all over his all over his big fat face. I'm sure cuss a lot, I'm sorry. I apologize. I let a few cuss words slip in there, but I leave them out in the novels. I leave the blood and guts part out, because that's not good for the tiny children, This is more like triple X rated, like adults. This is for the adults, But in the novels, I leave the bad words out, But once in a while, I let a cuss word slip out, because I I cuss more than a drunken sailor in Hawaii in a pink sachet in a stormy night in hell. In a snowstorm. Drinking 10 cases of vodka at the same time, man. Vitamin B beer, man. So as the story goes, now Bill doesn't want to go. He says, look, Fatso, hey, look, I'm on vacation, man. Why don't you bother somebody else? But Fatso got away with Skinny. Skinny knows Fatso, and Fatso knows Skinny. He says, look, Bill, I'm coming up with a new game. We invented a brand new housepop model. Jimmy Coop, but they called him Coop S182. He's a brand new housepop model. Now, Skinny, I need you here to the boardroom because we're going to have a meeting. And I'm going to invent a game. It's called, the game's going to be called the Sale of the Century. And I want you in it, Bill. But you're going to have to play the game all the way through till the end on my island in the Gulf of Mexico. And I'll promote you to president of Cybertron Corporation, Bill. So Bill's thinking to himself, he's already got money. Money is not the issue. But he don't like games. He's got a nose like a bloodhound. He's got a nose better than a shark. He can smell one drop of blood in the ocean better than a shark can. Now, he's got a bad feeling about this game. He says, Fats, you know, so Bill, but he talks Bill into it because he works there. And he's the salesman. So Bill agrees, says, okay, Fats. So they go up to their mansion and they get their butler and the maid together and they pack their bags. And they got this special baby hovercraft, this M22 hovercraft. That's his red apple baby, man. It's got a C with 2 lightning bolts on either side. It says Cybertron. So they lift straight up to the ground of the hoverport, and they fly to New York City, to the hoverport. Now this is the year 2285, you have to remember. We're talking the Jetsons here, you know. So they land at the hoverport, and Bill Withers, he's tipping off everybody with $1,000 bills. Keep the change. Yes, sir, Mr. Withers. You're the boss, buddy. You got it, man. And what he doesn't know yet, the military is interested in this new housepop model. He has amazing capabilities because they based him on starfish technology. That's all I can say for now. So they have this meeting in the boardroom. And Fatso says, I want you to get to know Jimmy Coop. So he pairs him up with this new housepop model, Jimmy Coop. So now Coop is following Bill Withers around, and they get to know each other as the story goes by. A lot of things happen, but they have so many days to get to this Fatso's Island game called the Sale of the Century. And here's another clue. They're going to film this game on national television. But Bill talks to his wife. He says, Sherry, I got a bad feeling about this game. So they take their wedding rings off. He says, Sherry, if I make it back alive from this game, I don't want you to go with me, because I smell them doom and gloom, I smell. So they take their wedding rings off together. And I'll cut through it. I can't tell you that part. They go to the island. Him and Jimmy Coop take their hovercraft. He leaves Sherry in New York City at the Hilton Hotel, because he doesn't want his wife to get involved in this, he said. As the story goes. So they get to the island, and here comes all these wealthy investors, from all over the world, because they're trying to franchise the new model out. But to do that, you have to get a contract with Cybertron. These guests are invited. They have Tycho Cheska from Russia, an engineer, Kim Sewell from Japan, a technician, Prime Minister Mary Sebastian comes over from England in her hovercraft. Artie Ramus is a gem dealer from Australia. He comes to the game. And some other folks. And there's this marbled mansion on Fatso's Island. And they go up the marble stairs, and the military comes in because they want to observe Coop S182, the brand new housepop model. So the military flies in. And the general and the colonel come in, and they all go up the marble stairs of this mansion on Fatso's dumbass island. Fatso, dumb pig. That guy's like a Cheshire cat, you know. He's got that evil grin. You can see evil written on his face, you know. He's got 666 right on the top of his forehead, you know. He's like Satan's fucking father, you know, that kid. So they go up the stairs and they're sitting around in a big mansion. They're having drinks, you know, at the bar, you know. They're having a slamming a few down together. And they elect them to their suites, you know, the staterooms, you know, contestants, because they got to start the game. So the next day they come down to the bar, and this big TV screen arises from the floor, and Fatso's face on it. And they got to try to find these rings, because whoever wins the rings first, 3 or 4 rings first, wins the biggest percentage of the Cybertron contract to get a franchise Coop S-182. But the camera crews are there and the military are there in the game to watch Coop in progress. They want to see it in person. And the military is interested because he has amazing capabilities, and that's why the military got involved. So they're on this island, and they turn on the force field because they don't want nobody to get in the game. All of a sudden, Murphy's Law. Everything bad that can happen does happen, and all at the same time. Don't you just know it? You knew that was going to happen, right? The force field starts screwing up. The off switch broke off, and it's turned on the on position, and they can't turn it off. So they're fixing that mess. All of a sudden, news comes in over the big TV. There was an accident, and they found out that Bill Withers' wife, Sherry, had been murdered in New York City. They found her decapitated with her head cut off. There was a competing corporation called Globalcom. So now Jimmy Coop S-182, and Bill Withers had to go back to New York City. So they were able to get the force field working long enough so they could get back to New York City. Because now they have a murder scene. They killed his beautiful wife, Sherry Withers. And the police are there because now it's a murder investigation. And Bill knew the police. But Cooper found this little nano chip. The thing was so small, only Coop could see it. And he looked at it, he said, "Bill, this is Globalcom. We have to get this to Dr. Carl Soki." So he paid the police a little bribe money, because they didn't want to lose the chain of evidence. So they sent a detective with them to keep the chain of evidence. Because only Dr. Carl Soki could analyze that chip from Globalcom. Because he works for Cybertron Corporation, because Bill Withers hired Dr. Carl Soki from Japan. They immigrated from Japan, and Bill Withers helped them get their nationalization papers to become U.S. citizens. And he hired Soki, Dr. Carl Soki, to work for Cybertron Corporation. It was a Cybertron matter. Only Soki, only Dr. Carl Soki from Japan could analyze that little chip that Coop S-182 found at the murder scene. So the police are following them, and that's okay because Bill knows the police. That's fine. But here's the deal. On this issue, I'm going to make another amendment. This game's being televised all over the world. Now the audience doesn't know this is just a game to them. See, they're on the outside looking in. This is not a game. But their ratings keep going up and up and up. And all of a sudden they got the #1 rated game show on television, man. Because the audience thinks it's a game show. It's not a game show. But nobody knows that. Only the people on the island know that. And it's called, Fatso labeled it the sale of the century. And the camera crews are trapped on the island, the police are trapped on the island, the military is trapped on the island, because they go to New York City, they dig up the clues, and Bill found his beautiful wife with her head cut off, and they went to the funeral. He built a monument for her, and after the funeral, 2 weeks later, he had to get back to the game, because he's got to play the game all the way through till the end, as Fatso had asked him. Bill said he would, and he always kept his word. So him and Jimmy Cooper, after the funeral, went back to the island to finish playing Fatso's game after the grieving period was over with. And the police went with him, and they had the Civil Area Patrol following them too, because he knows people in the Civil Area Patrol, and they're following Bill Withers around because they're there to protect Bill Withers. And on the island, they got Cybertron Corporation guards. They have Cybertron security there to guard Bill Withers in this game. So they're all trapped on this island. But what they didn't know was, when they went back to the game, him and Jimmy Cooper, the Globalcom assassin was in the back seat of the goddamn hovercraft. And they didn't know it until they got back to the island and they turned the force field on again. And that's how the killer got back on the island, because he's from Globalcom. And they're not trying to kill Sherry. They're trying to kill Bill. And that's how this invisible killer from Globalcom got back on the island again, because they let him in. They didn't know that until Coop S-182 figured out the clues. And the camera crews are shaking like hell. Everybody's scared as hell. And this is not this is reality. You want a reality TV show? This is as real as it gets, man. It's not a game, but the audience don't know that, you see. Alright, let me try to get this on YouTube. I'll make another amendment. But this was the last novel I was able to complete. It's called The Sale of the Century. I'll try to get this on YouTube. I want to make a first amendment. Okay. Alright, have a good day. Okay. Talk to you later. Okay, bye-bye.